Welcome to the Pub Date Podcast, the show where two book broads discuss what should happen before, during, and after your book publication date. Brought to you by Broad Book Group, with your hosts Vanessa Campos and Jen Dorsey.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa, and today is a very special day. Jen Dorsey is actually enjoying some really well-deserved vacation time with her family, but in her absence, I am joined by a very special Broad Book Group's guest, and really an honorary book broad, someone who I've personally worked with on many book marketing strategies, launches, and events. Everyone, please welcome Danielle Brown. Hey, Danielle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to see your face. I can't wait till later in the year where we can actually get together in person.
I know.
So for those of you who don't know who Danielle Brown is, shame on you, but Danielle is the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Editorial at bookseller, the leading retailer for group sales. She is a passionate writer, avid reader, and all-around bibliophile. In her free time, she serves as a Toastmasters leader in Founders District, devoting her unique skills to develop dynamic communicators and exceptional leaders, which I've always admired from you. But she is also the co-host of the Currently Obsessed podcast, which is actually really fun. So if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and follow her. So Danielle, how are you?
I'm doing great. I feel very special to be an honorary book broad too. So I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. So I wanted to have you on because of A, your love of books, B, your overall strategic marketing mind, because it is very special to find someone who has that type of mind. You're a phenomenal writer and you have this incredible background and community building life outside of books where you work with Toastmasters. And it got me thinking about, book publishing in general and how so many business books are really brought to life for a few reasons. One, clout, thought leadership. Two, business building. And three, and I think that this is, maybe many of them won't even admit it, but I think this is the ultimate goal, is speaking engagements. And if they're already speaking, maybe even a higher speaking fee. So one of the things that I've in business books, while everybody else was selling a lot of books, and even though books were being purchased, not just in store, but on bookshop.org, IndieBound, people were really increasing the number of books that were being purchased, but not necessarily for business authors. The pandemic hurt several industries, events being a big one. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was, one, what is your feeling around, this whole pause on business books and speaking engagements? And two, how are you seeing them kind of come back to life? Because I know that that's something that you straddle between Toastmasters and bookseller.
Yeah, definitely. So it was really hard to see that part of the industry shut down because authors, most of them in the business, self-help, nonfiction world, they're not in it to make money off of their book. They're not in it to maybe to be a bestseller. They like the name of the title of a New York Times bestseller, but they're not in it to get profit off of how many books they sell. They're in it because that book does give them the clout to earn engagements, to host events, to get more consulting clients, essentially to make a bigger impact than the book ever could, because the book is like the stepping stone. It's the framework, it's the foundation of their material, and then they are able to just expound upon that in so many other ways. So it was really hard to see that part of the industry just completely pause with the pandemic because No one was doing events, reasonably so. And no one really knew how to pivot and how to shift, but we figured it out. At least some people have. And one of the big ways that I've seen us recover in a way is with the virtual events. And we're seeing those all the time. We're seeing Instagram lives, we're seeing Zooms, obviously, is flourishing, and webinars, and all those kinds of areas. And at BookPal, one way that we are helping is being able to facilitate an order of books as like a giveaway to those attendees of an event, but then shipping all to their homes directly. So that way we're meeting the work from home remote employees where they are, or attendees or wherever they are. And I think that's been really nice because it's allowing these authors to then explore audiences of such a wide range now, right? Because those events were all, if you could come to such and such place on such and such date and pay this amount to be there, etc. Right. And now virtual events are a lot more accessible. As long as you have a mobile device and an internet connection, you can pretty much attend, and that's all you really need. So I think that's been really cool to see, and I'm eager to see it be more of a blend of having this kind of hybrid style of having a virtual experience, but then also an in-person experience. And maybe it's just a back and forth, or having some kind of blend of the two moving forward. And so it's really important for authors to be able to deliver their content in both experience types as well.
So in your experience and working with these authors, do you find that, and I'm thinking about, having the one-on-one conversation with somebody who has a decent platform like you and myself, and really promoting the book. But I'm curious to know what type of sales that look like. How does that look like? How would one facilitate the selling of the book if they're not able to do a bulk buy?
And you mean if they just have a platform but aren't doing anything on it?
Yeah, so like if they're not working with a BookPal or a wholesaler. So like for the indie author, like, do you have any tips for those authors to kind of put themselves and maybe mirror some of the strategies that you're working with publishers and authors who are distributed?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is that you have to treat your platform in some ways separate from your book, because your book is the product, it's the commodity. And like I said, it's the foundation of an entire source material that went into the book. Every writer knows that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of research, notes, whatever in your brain or in your document that didn't make it into the print format, into the print product. And so your platform is really your opportunity to add value and to build a community. And I think what's most important is getting that conversation sparked with people and building that community and delivering content in ways that people know they can trust you. They know that you know what you're talking about. They know that they're going to get something out of your product, that you've proven there is value to you already. And so it's worth it to buy that book. And from whatever retailer. I'd say for indie authors, there's a lot of pressure to refer to Amazon because it usually offers the best price. But I highly recommend exploring like as many retailers as you possibly can. And especially with things like bookshop.org, where they are benefiting independent booksellers as opposed to just supporting the monolith of Amazon all the time.
So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about, one of the things that as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, so you and I both know that it's really important if you are in, say, the LA area to connect with your local bookstores, your independent stores, and there's this big movement in helping keep that industry alive. So have you had any I know that you guys do, big events virtually right now, but do you have any tips for people who are looking to maybe connect with their indie bookstore, and what's the best way to maybe get their attention for a book that, may not be traditionally published, so like an indie book?
I'd say try to do something that can add value to the bookseller as well. So a lot of times, if they have your book in stock, if you already know that a Barnes and Noble nearby has your book on the shelf, you can drive by, and Vanessa, I know you and I have recommended this, you can drive right in and sign those copies, and they'll stick a sticker on it, and then they're able to not only have a signed copy, which is a commodity for them, but also they can then promote that to their audience or whatever it is that they're trying to reach. And in a way, that's giving them something because you're helping them drive traffic to their store. So try to look for ways where you can add some kind of value, even if it's something as small as driving traffic into their store, or if it's something else, like start that relationship with a give and take, as opposed to just, how can I sell my book through you? How can I get more people to buy my book from you? Make it be more of that relationship, and what can you do for them? What do they want? Is it more traffic in their store, or is it something entirely different? And how can you help facilitate that?
That's a really good point. And I think that in a lot of conversations that you and I have had, and I've kind of helped coach some indie authors in this type of, how do I, as the book author, continue to talk about my book without seeming too salesy? So that's one of the, and I'm shameless. So I'm like, hey, I'm Vanessa. I'm the author of, I always say that, but I know that, writing a book, running a business, and sometimes having to push that book, even if it's just the $20 entry point into who you are and your expertise, that can be really nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So question time. You have this really special, skill set in being in Toastmasters and helping people present their story. So I want to know what you think are 2 to 3 really good ways for authors to kind of communicate that they have a book, but that's not too salesy.
Well, I think the number one thing is always the what's in it for me question. And if you've ever been in marketing or done any marketing yourself, studied marketing, anything, you've heard this. Hopefully you've heard this. And it's always focusing on the benefits and the impact. And I think for authors who are worried about being too salesy, or are worried about trying to drive a hard sell all the time and feeling like that's exhausting, sometimes it's just a mindset shift of, it's not really just about, here's how the book can help you, because that can come off salesy. Instead, share success stories, share victories, share ways that you've seen this impact you in your life and other people. And then also, you can share little tidbits in the book that you think are really valuable. And I know this is something you and I have worked on, Vanessa, with other marketing strategies. And this is something you can easily do in some kind of presentation format of just talking about like 3 quick stats that somebody wouldn't know unless they had read your book, or some really fascinating survey or bit of research that you did that you just really want to share. Because here's the thing is, when something feels too salesy, it's usually because you're talking at someone, and it's all about the show, don't tell. So you want to find ways to illustrate your point. So that's why success stories, case studies, fascinating research, find something that you are passionate about with this product and talk about that thing. Don't talk about the book and why people should buy the book. Talk about why you wrote the book, why you're so passionate about it, the kind of impact you hope the book makes, and the kind of impact it's already making or your tips are already making. And that will get you excited and enthusiastic, and people will automatically just be drawn to that enthusiasm and passion.
I love that. I love that. I love that, it's not just having the talking at your audience or who would be your audience, but it's also having that conversation and it being a two-way street. Now, you said in a presentation format. So, I know, book talk is the new thing. So another question that, we get a lot as book marketers is which platform should we be on? And I would love to get your take because you're so social media savvy and, specifically for business book authors, what do you recommend?
Well, the number one thing is go where your audience is. So if you are targeting Gen Z with your book, if that's who you need to read it, you go on TikTok, do it. That's where they are. That's where they want information. That's where they're spending their free time. That's where they go to be entertained, to be educated, to find friends, to find common ground. That is where you want to be. But if you're trying to reach Gen X, maybe don't try TikTok. Maybe try something else first and establish a platform on something like Facebook or LinkedIn or some other platform. And then you can expand and kind of grow from there and spread your reach. But really think about who your audience is. And I know this can be a tough conversation because every author wants to say, everyone can benefit from my book. And yes, hopefully that's true. Hopefully your book is so amazing and valuable and impactful that literally anyone who reads it could take away a little something. But the question is not who could benefit from your book. The question is who is the ideal person and would get the absolute most, will milk this book for every ounce of value they possibly can. That's who you want to target. Because that's going to be the person with the exact problem you are solving in the exact situation that you wrote it for, feeling the exact feelings that maybe you felt or someone felt that inspired you to write it. That is the person you want to find. So go where that person is on social media, on whatever platform that is, and start there.
I feel like this is a TED Talk, lady.
Mic drop.
And I really do see, your experience with Toastmasters just shining through right now. And I love it.
It just happens instinctually,
It's all those years of working and practicing your craft. So if you haven't been paying attention, we kind of we walk through really what you need to do as an author in terms of building your platform. Who are you talking to? Where do you have to be in order to talk to the right people? So all of these things, lead up to the big conversation as how do I book myself for speaking engagements? And that's the number one reason I had you on, because you help other people learn to come into their groove in terms of, getting comfortable in front of others, getting comfortable, even if it's just you and your phone and you're on TikTok, there is that level of comfort that you have to be okay with. So if you were coaching an author, and you are because you're on this podcast, what is that natural next step to take all of those things and start positioning yourself as a speaker, as someone who maybe has never even, dipped their toe into that?
So there are a few things that you need to do and a few things I would suggest you do. The one thing that you need to do is research. You need to start with research because you cannot go and just pitch every platform under the sun. This is the same thing about the audience. Don't think that every platform could find a reason that your book is amazing. Think about the one platform that's going to have that one person who's going to benefit from your book the most. That's top tier of the kind of organization or platform you're trying to reach for whatever PR or speaking engagement. So you need to do your research. The second thing is you need to have material. And I don't mean the book, I mean something that shows you can do what you're pitching to do. So whether that is a speaker's reel, a TikTok, if that's your style, or a YouTube channel, there has to be something that just shows you in your element, talking about what you love to talk about, because someone wants to know that when they invite you or when they even get on a call to even negotiate the terms of the speaking engagement, that you're not going to be an instant turnoff, that you have the confidence and the expertise to carry this out. They want to feel assured. So you need to have something somewhere that someone can look at for material. Now, there are a couple of things that I think you should do. And one is probably you should talk to a publicist, a PR agency. Even if you don't sign a contract, you should at least be having those conversations and see what they say about you, about your package, about how they would package you. Have those conversations and just see what you can learn. And if you do have the means and the capability to sign on with someone, that is a huge game changer for a lot of authors. And then the second thing that you should do is you should have a speaker's kit or a media kit, and you can Google that to find out exactly what should be in it. And you should have someone else look at it before you send it out. So if you have that publicist, guess what? They're going to make a whole speaker's kit for you, and they're going to make it look amazing and probably have their whole team review it before they send it anywhere. If it's just you on your own, just make sure there's someone that you trust or someone who's your target market who can take a look and see if you are packaging yourself the way you should be for the kind of work that you're trying to earn.
And that's a really good point. One of the things that I always tell people, when they ask about a speaker's kit is, borrow from as many people as you possibly can. And, go into your favorite, somebody who you admire who's written a book before. Chances are they have a speaking kit on their website. They have a one sheet that people can download for event coordinators. So I would absolutely recommend doing that. I love talking to you about all of these things. It's always great to hear somebody else who is doing this on a completely different set of rules, because I know that you right now are working more on the group sales, the wholesale, and you're talking to publishers instead of you being the publisher. So I am really excited for, what's to come for you and how events are going to continue to kind of come back to life. But my big question for you is, okay, so we've pivoted from in-person events and, broadcasting those in-person events to virtual events. Do you think that virtual events will eventually just go away?
Definitely not. And I think you'll hear this from pretty much anyone, that they're not going anywhere. People like that accessibility. People like being able to roll out of bed and just tune into a webinar, or roll out of bed and get to work. There are certainly people who still prefer in-person, and there are cases where in-person can be more effective or more conducive. But I think where we're headed is just a blend of the two. It's kind of like the question about when ebooks came on the scene, and it was like, so now that there are ebooks, are we just going to stop printing books? Is that where we're going to go? Well, guess what? No, we're all still publishing and printing hardcover books and paperback books, because there is a reason that you like reading the physical copy. There are people who prefer that over a digital edition. And it's the same thing with events. I think we're just going to see this new landscape where different organizations, different event organizers will plan for their different circumstances, and we're going to see a mix. But I think that's why it's so important to have material readily available while you are pitching for those kinds of engagements and pitching yourself. Because if someone's going to have you on screen, they want to know that you know how to do that. They want to know you know how to deliver in a virtual or digital platform. Whereas you could maybe sway them if you come in person and you have a little bit more charm. But if they are going to have you on Zoom, they want to make sure you can deliver that way. And you still have your personality. You're not saying every 3 seconds, etc.
I remember that buzzer situation at the Toastmasters event. It's like, wow, that's a lot of ums. I didn't realize. And then it's just like, burp, burp. So that's kind of a little bit of negative reinforcement there, but it works, I bet. So tell me what you're most excited about in terms of book industry.
I I'm most excited about is the new celebration of diversity in the publishing industry. We have a long way to go, but it's really exciting to see specific marginalized voices celebrated and pushed to the forefront. And I'm really excited about that. And I want to see more and more of that as we continue to grow. And again, I just feel like this new level of accessibility to authors where they are, and the new ability for authors to really create their own platforms and find their own audiences from the ground up, that gives them tremendous power that authors have never tapped into before and they've never had before. So I'm really excited for that. And I hope that we continue to see the growth of marginalized voices because of that. And I hope we lean into it and not fight and resist against that new way of growing in the industry.
I agree with you. And I think that it's really important, again, the grassroots movement of, you building your own platform, you selling directly to your consumers, and you helping keep that independent spirit alive and working with your community. So you have so much great information. How can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you for events, book ideas, and speaking coaching? Really, I mean, wow.
Yeah, you can find my website at daniellebrownwrites.com. You can also find me on Instagram at daniellebrownwrites, and you can email me directly at daniellebrownwrites@gmail.com. So any of those are open channels.
Perfect. Well, seriously, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I look forward to having you again. We could talk more about, grassroots marketing and indies, and just, yes, we'll have you on again.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much again. And thank you to everyone who's listening. And, just keep writing, keep publishing.
We hope that you gained some valuable insights into the world of book publishing. Head over to broadbookgroup.com to learn more about us and all our services. And be sure to check out all our social media at Broad Book Group. Until then, keep publishing.